A dazzling new capital is growing in Egypt, 4 times the size of Washington, D.C., imperial in scale and design, symbolizing President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's ambitious goals and his title as the country's unrivaled ruler. Just outside Cairo, the new administrative capital includes Africa's tallest structure, a crystal pyramid, and a massive disc-shaped palace for Mr. el-Sisi, inspired by the symbols of an ancient Egyptian sun god. It is the most ambitious of a flurry of mega-projects being built by a ruler determined to transform Egypt, having taken 6 years and costing an estimated $59 billion. However, as Egypt limps through a catastrophic economic crisis, its finances dangerously strained, more vocal doubts are arising about whether the country can pay Mr. el-Sisi's big plans. But despite all those concerns, construction appears to be heating up. But why? Why is there such a rush to create such a pricey project in the midst of the country's current financial crisis? And why is everyone opposed to it? The new capital. The new administrative capital is a new urban community and satellite of Cairo. It has been under development since 2015 and is intended to be Egypt's next capital. It was unveiled on March 13, 2015, by Egypt's then housing minister, Mostafa Madbouli, at the Egypt Economic Development Conference. The capital city is one of the economic development initiatives, and it is part of a bigger program called Egypt Vision 2030. Egypt's new capital city is yet to be named. A competition to choose a new name and logo for the city was established on the website of the new capital. A jury of specialists was constituted to examine the suggestions submitted to the list and select the best one. The Egyptian government has yet to release official findings. Transportation Minister Kamal Al-Wazir hinted in October 2021 that the city might be called Egypt. The proposed city will be 45 kilometers east of Cairo, just outside the second Greater Cairo Ring Road, in a mostly undeveloped territory midway between Cairo and the maritime city of Suez. According to plans, the city would become Egypt's new administrative and financial capital, housing the country's principal government offices and ministries, as well as foreign embassies. It would have a population of 6.5 million people on a total area of 700 square kilometers, yet this figure could climb to 7 million. Officially, one of the main reasons for launching the project was to ease congestion in Cairo, which is already one of the world's most congested cities, with Greater Cairo's population predicted to quadruple in the next decades, and Cairo has a metro population of almost 20 million people. A government administrative district, a diplomatic quarter, a cultural district, a central business district, parks, and 21 residential districts are planned for the city. The NAC will be developed in stages over 714 square kilometers, with Phase 1 covering about less than a fifth of the city's land allocation. A central park, artificial lakes, around 2,000 educational institutions, a technology and innovation park, 18 hospitals, 1,250 mosques and churches, a 440-seat stadium, 40,000 hotel rooms, a major theme park 4 times the size of Disneyland, 90 square kilometers of solar energy farms, and an electric railway link with Cairo are among the amenities planned for the city. It is being created as a smart city with over 6,000 cameras monitoring the streets. Authorities will also use artificial intelligence to monitor water use and garbage management, and residents will be able to lodge concerns via a mobile app. The relocation of parliament, presidential palaces, government ministries, and foreign embassies was scheduled to take place between 2020 and 2022. But due to construction delays and COVID-19, the relocation of nearly 30,000 government employees was postponed until March 2023. 14 ministries and government institutions have relocated to the new administrative capital as of May 5, 2023. The relocation of the government from Cairo to NAC is expected to cost over $100 million, although the complete cost and timetable for the overall project have yet to be released. Feedback from previous capital relocation experiences was considered, for example, by meeting with representatives from Astana, which replaced Almaty as Kazakhstan's capital city in 1997. On paper, all of the plans appear to be sound. The reasoning may be flawed, but the goals are lofty. The elephant in the room, though, is how do you get enough money to build such a thing? Finance and building. When the idea was formally announced in March 2015, it was found that the Egyptian military had already begun construction of a route from Cairo to the potential capital site. Capital City Partners, a private real estate investment group owned by Emirati businessman Mohammed Alabar, was nominated as the city's builder. However, Egypt canceled the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, inked with Alabar during the March Economic Conference in September 2015, since the proposed initiatives had not progressed. Egypt signed a new Memorandum of Understanding with China State Construction Engineering Corporation, CSCEC, in the same month to study building and financing the administrative portion of the new capital, which will include ministries, government agencies, and the President's office. CSCEC, on the other hand, inked agreements with Egyptian officials in 2017 to only build the business district. The Egyptian government was left to finance and manage the majority of the construction, establishing the Administrative Capital Urban Development Company on April 21, 2016, an Egyptian joint stock company whose major shareholders are the Ministry of Defense, which holds 51% by in-kind contribution of land, and the Ministry of Housing's new Urban Communities Authority, which holds 49% of the share. Administrative Capital Urban Development Company, like Nuka's other new towns, supervises the design, subdivision, infrastructure building, and sale of land parcels in collaboration with the new Administrative Capital Development Authority. Arab Contractors, a state-owned construction business, was hired to build the new capital's water supply and sewage infrastructure. The corporation indicated that the necessary studies were completed in August, and it is expected that the project will take 3 months to equip the city with the key services required to ready it for building work. So what did they create after all of this? In fact, it's quite stunning. Notable structures. Mosque of Al-Fatah Al-Alim. Al-Fatah Al-Alim Mosque is Egypt's second largest mega mosque. Egypt's Great Mosque. The Egypt Grand Mosque, Masjid Misr Al-Kabir, is Africa's largest mosque. The mosque, built in the Mamluk style and set on a hill overlooking the new administrative capital, is Egypt's largest and the Middle East's third largest. The Cathedral of the Nativity of Christ. The Nativity of Christ Cathedral is Egypt's and the Middle East's largest mega-cathedral. The cathedral serves the Coptic Orthodox community in the city. The Green River Park. The Green River Park, also known as Capital Park, is a planned urban park that will run the length of the future capital, representing the Nile River. It will be 35 kilometers, 22 miles long, double the size of New York's Central Park. The first section of the park is currently under construction and will cover around 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles. The Octagon. Egypt's new Ministry of Defense headquarters is the Octagon, State's Strategic Leadership Center. The complex, like the Pentagon in the United States of America, is the largest of its kind in the Middle East and one of the largest in the world. The Capital International Airport. The Capital International Airport serves Egypt's new capital and is designed to ease pressure on Cairo International Airport, which serves Cairo, and the Sphinx International Airport, which serves Giza. New Administrative Capital Stadium. Since 2019, the new Administrative Capital Stadium, Sports City Stadium, has been under construction. With a capacity of approximately 93,000 people, it will be Egypt's largest stadium and Africa's second largest, and it is set to replace the Cairo International Stadium as the country's new national stadium. It will be integrated into a broader Olympic sports complex, the iconic Tower. Over 30 skyscrapers are being built, including the iconic Tower, which will be Egypt's and Africa's tallest structure. El-Sisi is definitely attempting to re-establish Egypt on the map, following in the footsteps of Saudi Arabia and the UAE. So why is everyone so opposed to this project? Egyptians too? Money is the simple answer. Problems. Although the financing for the new projects is still unknown, they are partially supported by Chinese cash, as well as high-interest bonds that Egypt will have to return in the coming years. There are also several Emirati developers working in the future capital. Egypt's total finances were precarious even before Russia invaded Ukraine in February. Mr. El-Sisi had borrowed significantly to fund the mega-projects, as well as billions of dollars in international weaponry acquisitions, causing the national debt to treble in a decade. Foreign investors have largely avoided Egypt due to the military's stranglehold on the economy. Outside of oil and gas, The private sector has decreased every month for nearly 2 years as a result of this, paired with a lack of focus on building domestic sectors. According to Goldman Sachs, Egypt needs a $15 billion rescue from the International Monetary Fund to keep its creditors at bay. Egypt's finance minister, who admits that the country is requesting a new IMF loan, believes the real amount will be significantly lower, with diplomats estimating it at $3 billion. The Russian invasion of Ukraine tipped Egypt's financial house of cards over. As interest rates and food prices rose this summer, the government ordered malls, stadiums, and other public buildings to restrict air conditioning and dim the lights in order to sell more energy abroad. Economists warn that Egypt is now one of a handful of countries that face a high risk of debt default, and even Mr. El-Sisi's supporters are concerned about the economic agony that lies ahead. 2023 will be dark and horrific, Amr Adib, a renowned television broadcaster, an ardent Sisi fan, recently said. Egypt's allies may once again save it from calamity. This year, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar have each invested at least $22 billion in the country. The United States, which supported an IMF bailout in 2016, provides consistent military assistance. Despite rare criticism from some of his own followers over the sparkling mega projects, Mr. El-Sisi has insisted on their completion. However, his faltering economy cannot support them. While the government has promised that the new cities will produce millions of jobs and much-needed homes, economists believe that the majority of jobs created so far have been low-wage construction labor. They believe that unless Mr. El-Sisi makes larger changes, such as relaxing the military's economic hold and reviving private business, the benefits of the new projects would be short-lived. Ordinary Egyptians have previously paid for Mr. El-Sisi's ambitious programs, despite rising prices and falling living standards. He hurried through an $8 billion Suez Canal extension in 2015, billed as the rebirth of Egypt, but it has failed to generate the expected windfall. The Suez Canal generated $6.3 billion in revenue last year, significantly short of the $13 billion originally projected by the government by 2023. The first rumbles of dissatisfaction with the current mega-projects were heard in 2019, when, during rare anti-government protests in Cairo, demonstrators chanted chants mocking Mr. El-Sisi's wife, a reference to reports that she had lavishly renovated a presidential mansion. "Who cares if I have palaces?" Mr. El-Sisi stated weeks later, after thousands were imprisoned as a result of the protests. "They are intended for all Egyptians." As the aftermath of Ukraine's war drove up the price of staple items this year, anti-Sisi hashtags such as Hunger Revolution, Leave Sisi, and The Poor's Anger is Inevitably Coming circulated on social media. A new Egyptian capital was expected to provide a break from the suffocating turmoil of Cairo, which has a population of more than 20 million people. Though the notion was first conceived by Hosni Mubarak, the authoritarian leader deposed in the 2011 Arab Spring upheavals, Mr. El-Sisi has pushed it to new heights. The iconic tower, a Chinese-built skyscraper, soars to 1,293 feet, making it the tallest building in Africa. Tens of thousands of units have already been constructed, but few have been furnished or painted, giving the new metropolis the impression of a large building site. Mr. El-Sisi first stated that the new capital would be funded by foreign and domestic investors, as well as the sale of government land in central Cairo. The government put pressure on Egyptian developers, some of whom had military ties, to assist in building it. However, as investor interest waned, the president announced that the government would pay the military-owned administrative capital for urban development, the developer who owns and oversees the construction of the new capital, approximately $203 million per year, to rent ministries and other official buildings in the new office district. This imposed a direct cost on taxpayers, but Mr. El-Sisi insists that Egyptians will one day thank him. "When we started building new cities, it was said that we were wasting money for no reason," he remarked in February, justifying the initiatives by naming destitute Cairo neighborhoods. "How do they live?" he inquired sharply. However, it is doubtful how many ordinary Egyptians will feel at home in the new capital. Mohammed Mahmoud, 27, and Omar Sheikh, 28, a pair of construction workers in skinny jeans, waited among the cranes and dust one afternoon as the city was being built, waiting for a bus home to Sohag, 350 miles down the Nile. They said they doubted they would ever return to the gleaming new metropolis, where the cheapest flat cost $80,000 once construction was completed. "None of this is for us," Mr. Mahmoud remarked, motioning to the marble-fronted buildings, then to a billboard depicting Mr. El-Sisi. "It's for him." Few would argue that Egypt, with a population of more than 100 million people that is expanding by more than 1 million people every year, urgently needs more housing. However, urban planners argue Mr. El-Sisi would be better off repairing his existing cities rather than building new ones. And the expense of fresh capital extends beyond the financial. Thirsty new cities threaten to take precious water from the country's main water source, the already depleted Nile. Builders burned enormous sections of trees in the magnificent ancient suburb of Heliopolis to make room for the new roadways that ribbon through Cairo, going to the new city. At the very least, the new metropolis will become a symbol of Mr. El-Sisi's more imperialist administration. Mr. El-Sisi might continue in power until 2030 or beyond. According to modifications in constitutional term limits, he pushed through parliament in 2019. The Octagon, a massive military facility on the outskirts of the new city, is 7 times the size of the Pentagon, a new bulwark of military power many miles from Tahrir Square in central Cairo, where revolutionaries gathered in 2011 to depose Mr. Mubarak. Few expect Mr. El-Sisi, whose draconian security services mercilessly quash any criticism, to face a similar uprising anytime soon. However, as the cost of the new capital grows with its mirror-fronted towers, Mr. El-Sisi will have to deal with Egyptians who are dissatisfied with the gap between his lofty promises and the harsh reality of their own lives. Like and subscribe if you like learning about more abandoned projects, and click the video in screen now to find out how the biggest billion-dollar highway in Hawaii was made, but is never used.